for SWK Technologies. I'd like to welcome you to our Acumatica 2019 R2 Features and Updates webinar presented by our SWK Acumatica team. A little housekeeping before we get started. Everyone has been placed on mute to keep the background noise down. However, you can submit any questions you have throughout the webinar. To submit a question, look for the question section in your GoToWebinar pod on the right side of your screen. We will answer questions at the end of the presentation. We are recording the presentation and it will be distributed to everyone whether or not they attended tomorrow. So roughly about 24 hours after the end of this presentation, you should receive something in your email. Please take a moment at the end of the presentation to also answer our short 2-question survey. So with that said, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to attend our webinar. We'd like to encourage you to ask questions, and we have some experts on the line that are able to help you guys and also answer any questions specific to the products that we're going to be going over. So please feel free to ask questions and provide any feedback you have so we can also continue to improve our webinar service. Lastly, as a quick reminder, we are constantly sharing important updates and software tips and tricks and also news on our social media channels. So we encourage you to follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, which includes our full library of recorded webinars for other solutions that we offer. So without further ado, the Acumatica team has put together a really great presentation. So let's get started. Jeremy, over to you.
Thanks, Ellen, for a great intro. And thanks, everybody, for joining our webinar today. We're really excited to give you some updates about the Acumatica practice, as well as talk about, from our perspective, what the top 5 features are from 2019 R2. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jeremy Patoka. I'm one of the Acumatica solution architects here at SWK Technologies. And before we jump into some of the details, let's just take a look at what we're going to be doing over the next 50 minutes to about an hour. Quick intro here. We've got some general updates from the Acumatica team, and we'll have the opportunity to introduce some new folks to the team and some resources you all have access to. We are going to talk briefly just about best practices and protocols for doing upgrades. We will spend about 15 to 20 minutes inside of Acumatica version 2019 R2 talking about those top 5 features that we're really excited about getting into everybody's hands. We do have a special guest today, Gabriel Michaud from Velixo Reports, and he's going to show you really, from our perspective, the best Excel-based reporting tool for Acumatica. Look out for that, and you'll be seeing an intro as well as a quick demo of the solution. I have a little bit of time, as Helen mentioned, to answer some questions. So we will answer some questions really about anything that we cover today. If there's something that we cannot answer today live, we'll make sure that your question gets answered, and we'll likely route that through your customer account manager. And then to end our webinar, we're actually going to be talking a little bit about the AccuMatica Summit, which should say 2020 here. We're in 2019, but the summit actually takes place in January 2020. And we'll be raffling off 2 free summit passes. So those will be free for 2 of you that are on the line today. And we'll actually be doing that live right at the end of the webinar. A couple of quick introductions here. We've added some new folks to our team, actually a lot over the past year, and a couple that we want to highlight here for you is first and foremost, Jean Cummings. Jean is our new Acumatica Customer Success Manager. So I'm actually going to give the floor to Jean just for a moment to introduce herself, and many of you have interacted with her already, but she can tell you a little bit more about her role and how she'll be interacting with everyone.
Hi, thank you so much, Jeremy. Hi, everyone. This is Jean Cummings. I'm so excited to be here at SWK. I actually came over from the Acumatica ecosystem. And SWK, I have had a chance to talk to most of you, many of you. A few I still need to connect with. But SWK created my role specifically to make sure that our customers are having a great experience with SWK. And so what that really means is, it just speaks volumes about SWK. It means that I'm an advocate for our Acumatica customers, and I'm here to ensure that our customers' projects and experience with SWK is positive. So I will be checking in with you, making sure you know how to navigate SWK, navigate Acumatica, making sure that your experience is positive, and we are doing so much work. I've had deep conversations with many of our customers. A lot came out of that, what we're doing well, some areas that we can improve on. Our team has already gotten together, and there's already future discussions happening around where we can make some changes and just be better and better for our customers. I think that is great. One thing I will say is, I did come from Acumatica. As you all know, Acumatica is an innovator in the ERP cloud space. SWK has the most customers within the Acumatica ecosystem. I was very proud to move over to SWK from Acumatica, and Acumatica is the future of SWK. And one of the things I love about SWK is that although SWK is a national organization, and so they bring a ton of experience to the table and knowledge to our customers. And yet they listen and they make changes very quickly. So they pivot really quickly. Creating my position and investing in our Acumatica customers is very much aligned to the mission of SWK, which is we empower our customers with knowledge, solutions, and tools for success. And SWK delights our customers by providing solutions and expertise that transform their business and enable success. So that's what I'm here to do with our team, and look forward to evolving our relationship in the future.
Great. Thanks, Sean. Mike isn't going to be introducing himself today, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that we have another Acumatica solution engineer. There's actually 3 of us at this point, and we're really starting to focus on the verticals as the vertical additions are growing with Acumatica. So I will be focusing mainly with our manufacturing and distribution customers. Many of you have interacted with Seth Kuhn. Seth is actually going to be focusing on e-commerce and nonprofits. And then Mike was a new addition to our team last month. Mike is going to be working primarily with our construction customers, as well as being our resident project accounting guru within Acumatica. So you'll see Mike at the Acumatica Summit, and you can introduce yourself then. That's really just scratching the surface, guys, of the headcount that we've added and the growth that we've seen inside of the Acumatica team across all departments at SWK. So at this point, I'm going to give it over to Jeb just to talk a little bit about the changes on the consulting side, the growth that's happened over the last year, and then he'll also transition then into talking about upgrades.
Thanks, Jeremy. Yeah, we've had a tremendous year here at SWK working on the team. At the beginning of the year, we had 3 full-time consultants. As of last week, we added some new people, and we now have a team full of 10 consultants and project managers. We didn't even have a full-time project manager at the beginning of the year. So the team has changed tremendously from that standpoint. In addition, we've also added a internal development team, which we did not have before. We previously outsourced things, and we continue to build our support teams as well as our outside contractors. So our team has grown tremendously in the past year, and all signs are that it's going to continue on a similar path into 2020. So we're really excited about that. With regards to upgrades, we're seeing a lot of clients upgrade for several reasons we'll talk about here in a minute. But during that process, we get a lot of questions about why should I do this? How do I do it? What's involved? All those types of things. So we wanted to give a little how, what, why, and when regarding the upgrades. First of all, there's several reasons why you would upgrade. First of all, there are two major releases from Acumatica each year. One comes out in roughly March and the other comes out roughly in September. Those have security enhancements, additional features and functionality, and a lot of benefits in the product. Acumatica is very much on a growth cycle and continuing to add lots of things to the product. And so with every release, there's more and more benefit to upgrade. As we'll look at on the next slide in the calendar, each major release is supported for about 20 months before it is retired. So that is another reason to upgrade, is the fact that within less than 2 years, your version is no longer officially going to be supported by Acumatica. SWK will support things as long as we can, and we continue to support versions that Acumatica doesn't, but it's always recommended to be on a supported version. If you are on a Acumatica hosted platform and you are on a unsupported retired version, they will charge a premium for your annual renewals. Nobody wants that, so yet another reason to upgrade. And that charge is currently 25%. SWK doesn't really have any control over that or ability to negotiate that, so you know, that's definitely something you want to avoid. And then lastly, Acumatica recommends that you get into a cadence of doing upgrades each year. It's a lot easier than things that you've worked with in the past, you know, older client server platforms. The upgrades for Acumatica tend to be much less painful and quicker. They are not without some effort, but it's fairly minimal effort, and so we like for people to just kind of plan them into their year. Additionally, when you are a SaaS customer and you're planning this upgrade, Acumatica provides you a no-cost sandbox for up to 90 days to go through that transformation and test things. So, so that's a really nice benefit and something you get as part of your subscription. So going to the next page, we see on here some of the most current releases from Acumatica. That's 2018 through R1 through 2019 R2. You could see here their release dates and their expected retirement dates, and that window is approximately 20 to 24 months. So if you see your version on this list, you need to be thinking about upgrading at some point in the future prior to that retirement. If you don't see your version on that list, that means it's quite a bit older, and you definitely want to start working on your upgrade as soon as possible. And if you have any questions with that, you can reach out to any of us that are on the call today. So lastly, I'll talk about what the upgrade process looks like. Again, we typically will get the Acumatica sandbox for 90 days. We will upgrade your environment in that test instance to the latest version of Acumatica, apply any customizations or integrations or anything that's unique to your environment, and work with your team, the client team, to test the environment. Once we all agree that the environment is working well, we'll plan the upgrade of the production environment, which we typically do over a night or a weekend, so there's no downtime to your operations. Your only responsibility in this process is just to review the functionality and features in the sandbox environment, as well as do some research, and we can do some guidance with you on what the new features are and things that you can improve from. And then lastly, with regards to the cost, there's no cost for the software. That's included in your subscription. And then the only cost is really whatever effort that we put in to help you guide you through that process. So fairly painless, but something that's really important to do to maintain your support, keep your costs down, and continue to get the advanced features and functionality from Acumatica.
Great, thank you, Jeb. All right, So we're going to actually go ahead and move into our feature release and update demonstration. Some of you may have attended one of the sessions that Acumatica had across the country, and I think they were doing these up until last week, and there may even be one or two left. But Acumatica has made this habit of doing 2 releases a year, as Jeb mentioned. The first one is typically around the AccuMatica Summit, January, February, March, that range. And then the second release is about 6 months thereafter, so sometime in the fall. And the first one was actually early September, the big launch in Boston, and that's where they kicked things off. Now, just a little bit of information about how Acumatica ships 2 versions a year. There's usually one larger release, and that will be the R1. So January, February, again, what they highlight at the summit, that's going to be 2020 R1. And what you'll find is usually significant product is included there. If they're going to launch a new edition or make some pretty big changes, you know, that happens and has historically happened in R1. R2 then are more smaller incremental changes. So some of the things that I'm going to show you guys today, you may think, well, you know, that's almost it's like a really small thing. But Acumatica looks at their product roadmap, which is published online. They use a tool called AHA. It's real easy to Google. And users like yourselves can go in and actually make recommendations. So some of the things that we're going to, actually about half of the things we're going to cover today were recommendations that were voted on by both the customer community and the VAR community. And Acumatica saw the need, saw the desire, and then prioritized that in their actual roadmap development. So I think it's really neat that we have a publisher that listens to the customer base, listens to the VAR community, and then responds. And they've got a really good track record of doing that. Again, those types of features often are in the R2 releases. So we're going to be taking a look at that together today. Here's really what we're going to be looking at. The release guide, I think, is about 162 pages, somewhere around there. So certainly there's a lot of features and enhancements that have been made in Acumatica 2019 R2. And what we've done is we've kind of built a list of things that we thought would be most important for the general population of our customer base, and just things that were asked frequently, even as new customers are coming on board. And these are the top 5 that made the list. One of the first things is that the pivot table functionality is now available in dashboards. And I will be showing you all of this here in just a couple of minutes. The second would be Acumatica's desire to make implementation a little easier as we onboard new customers. And what I'll show you is the predefined user roles. So whereas before we had some very basic user roles, and then we would need to go in and define it for the AP clerk, for the AP admin, for the AP view only, Acumatica now ships product in 2019 R2, including predefined user roles, and a pretty extensive list. One of the things that was on the product management site from Acumatica was this idea of having a corporate credit card processing system. For those of you that are using it today or are Acumatica customers today, you're probably aware that Acumatica does have an expense receipt and claim or expense reporting functionality, but historically that's been used for submitting reimbursable expenses that will be paid through accounts payable. And what Acumatica has done is they've opened this functionality up to now be able to process corporate credit cards as well and clear those and reconcile those. A pretty simple feature, but again, we've seen requests for, and was a product roadmap item that Acumatica had ranked, would be the availability to actually turn the customer order number, also it's on the sales order form, into a field that's going to validate, so we can make sure we're never entering an order more than one time and having duplicate orders in the system. And the last area, we decided to pick one vertical function or feature here in 2019 R2 that was pretty exciting to debut today for you, and that is the release of the engineering change control module. So if you're a manufacturer and you're using the manufacturing suite and you're looking or have looked for a way to actually have engineering or recipe changes suggested, approved, tracked, released through Acumatica, that's what you're going to see in a little bit. Acumatica now has an optional module. It is an optional module. It's the only one on the list. Everything else, if you've got it, you have it. This is actually an additional module that would be an additional cost to your subscription or perpetual license. There's a lot more, so I wanted to make sure that if you guys are looking for more information, our marketing team put out a great blog after the initial release in early September in Boston, and there's a pretty extensive list there of features. If you're interested in getting the full Acumatica release notes, you can look at that within your portal. And if you don't know what that means, then reach out to your customer account manager or myself, and we'd be glad to share that link with you. All right, so with that, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to exit the PowerPoint here, and we'll actually move over to Acumatica. So if you just give me one moment to make those changes here, and I'll move my screens around. I'm already logged in here as a user in 2019 R2 Acumatica. What you're looking at is something that most of you see every day, which is a dashboard. So from a high level, not much has changed when you log in, except what you can now do with the dashboards, and that's really what we're going to start with. I like this sales view because oftentimes a sales manager wants to see certain information broken down by territory, and they actually want it in a pivot view, or some people even would call it more of a Kanban view. So for those of you that have been using Acumatica for more than, let's say, 2 or 3 years, pivot tables were new as of a couple of years ago. So it's possible that these have been there and you haven't been using them. It's a really strong feature of Acumatica. This is actually a pivot table for a sales user or a sales manager that would show opportunity summary data. Okay, so this is CRM data. I'm showing this pivot table for a sales purpose. However, think about production, accounts payable, AR, any functional area, any data in the system, we can create a pivot table around. Now, before we go ahead and put this into a dashboard, let me just show you quickly what the pivot looks like by itself. So I'm going to hit View Pivot from the opportunities here, and I'm going to open up another tab. And you'll be able to see that pivot live here querying the Acumatica database. So right now I have 2 tabs, my opportunity summary and my opportunities by geography. And then you can see we're actually breaking it down by the class field on the opportunity. So I can see I've got 174,000 in services opportunities across the board, and then product sales opportunities, 500 and almost 50,000, okay? Now, this was that Kanban view that I mentioned where I can see what's in development, negotiation, prospect. These are our different stages now, are our columns here. This is drillable, so you can see it's hyperlinked. For the sake of not opening yet another tab here for our short demonstration, I won't do that, but it is a really neat function to be able to just drill down from these pivots. There's also an opportunities by geography. So this is taking all of the opportunity data and it's now breaking it down by state, if there was a state within a country. Okay, so here for our US country, you can see broken down across the states. And again, I still have my sales stages. So this functionality has been really liked and well received by the Acumatica customer base. And one of the things that Acumatica did in 2019 R2, which we're really excited about, is now pulling this very easy to view operational or managerial data into a dashboard. And that's what I'm going to show you next. So we have our sales manager dashboard here. I'm going to hit the little design. If you're trying to look at yours and you don't see that design, it means you don't have design access. You'd want to ask your system administrator to give you that dashboard designer access. And I'm going to hit add a new widget. Now this looks a little bit different than it did in 2018 R1 and R2 and before. We still have all the different types of dashboard widgets that we've had in the past, except now I have a new one called Pivot Table. So we can go ahead and for the sales manager actually add the opportunity. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select my inquiry in order to then pull in the pivot that is built around this inquiry. And I know it's my opportunities inquiry right here. So I'll select that. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'll select on the pivot. So remember, we had two tabs there, the op summary and the op by geography. Let's actually bring the op summary in. And remember that the caption field is simply the title of the dashboard widget. So I'll go ahead and I'll just call it the same as the pivot. And I hit finish. And like that, what we've done is we've actually brought in to our dashboard for the sales manager that pivot. So I can play around with the sizing of this. I can open it up. Now when I toggle off of my design, my sales manager would actually have access not only to the pivot, but the drill down feature from the pivot. Okay. Again, this was a pretty simple example from a CRM perspective, but apply this across all functional areas in the business and you would be able to see the power of bringing this type of data into your dashboards. Great. So the second feature that we are going to take a look at here was actually the predefined user roles. So let's go ahead and we'll take a look at that new feature that was released. I have the users tab here identified on a user just to demonstrate this. And as I scroll down, you'll be able to see all of these user roles. And this is a demo instance of Acumatica that I used with some demo data, but I did not create any additional user roles. These are the user roles that now come with Acumatica. So you're seeing here, I've got some, a very long list, like fixed asset admin, fixed asset clerk. I've got up here at the top, AR, AP, and different levels within there. Now, every company is still going to want to tailor these a little bit finer for their business and their people. However, we're not starting from scratch writing custom user roles or new user roles. Acumatica is saying every company is going to have some sort of AP users, and here's a really good start for you to be able to get live fast with the user roles that you need. I anticipate that we're going to see more of this type of functionality, adding more to the out-of-the-box ERP system with the goal of actually getting customers live faster by having as much of this predefined type of configuration that's possible. Certainly every implementation still has, the capability of needing to tailor to each individual company, your chart, your configuration. But Acumatica will continue to fill these basic things that every system needs, every customer needs. The next feature that we're going to be reviewing is the expense management. And so let's actually pull up an expense receipt here together. And you'll see here on my expense receipt, which is available from the Acumatica mobile application, by the way. This is the standard receipt screen in the system. Some of you that use the system for expense receipts already have seen, most of this looks exactly the same. There are a couple changes now though. And one is there's the option to select a paid with, and in this example, this has been paid with a personal account. And we also have a corporate credit card field. So, if I was actually entering in this receipt for $200 and we were paying with a corporate card, I would have selected corporate card. My corporate card field would open up, and that would then give me the ability to see the corporate credit card, select the corporate credit card to which I have access, and actually submit this not as a reimbursable expense, but an expense that is happening on a company card. Okay. In the past, there's been a workaround for this, and what we've had to do is actually create 2 employee records, one with the corporate credit card as a default, but it still didn't work, and I imagine some of you have that workaround today. This is a great way to be able to really treat corporate credit cards separately and set it up so that these are actually cleared through AP instead of reimbursed to an employee. Now, for the accounting folks on the line today, I'm not going to demonstrate this, but if you're familiar with Acumatica in a reimbursable expense, when these are actually released as expense reports or expense claims, they're routed to accounts payable for reimbursement. In the event that it's a corporate credit card expense, it's actually going to be flowing through the AP Quick Check screen, okay? And there we are going to clear this through a credit card liability account, therefore allowing you to reconcile this through the tools in Acumatica with the with a statement import. So this would be one of those fields that remember, Acumatica has great help documentation. If you're looking for more information about this, this is a place that you can look. And certainly if this is a feature that you'd like to enable for your organization, talk to your customer account manager or one of us on the line today. So we burned through our first 3, the pivot tables and dashboards, the user roles, and the corporate credit card processing. The last 2 features were the automatic duplicate checking within sales orders, as well as the manufacturing engineering change control. So Acumatica, for those of you that are using it, are comfortable and know that we have order types within the sales orders form. So you could have different types of sales orders. This one happens to be our standard SO type order. But these sales orders really drive a significant amount of automation in the system and behavior. So is it a quote, is it a field service sales order, or is it just a straight, like a part or inventory order? And you can actually define your own order types. This list has gotten very long, which is a good thing because we can really configure these order types to work differently. For example, for our main sales order, our just straight sales order type, I now have a setting to be able to require a customer order number. So I have this checkbox selected. When I select this checkbox, we have some options to say allow duplicates, warn the user about duplicates, or forbid duplicates, okay? And what we're talking about, by the way, is this field called customer order number. The field in the past has just been called customer order. You may be using it, you may not, but really it's intended for, let's say Elevation Computers sent me a purchase order for this injection molding machine for $30,000. I could attach their PO to the Acumatica form, and I could put their customer order number in. Well, you can see here that I've entered a sample for us to look at today where maybe this came into a certain email address, or it could have been faxed, or we could have gotten this over the phone. Lots of different ways we could have entered the order in, and the system is flagging this, saying you cannot actually make this an open order because the same customer, Elevation Computers, already has sales order 4945 in your system with this exact same PO number from the customer's PO number. So this is one of those things that in all the demos I've done, it comes up a lot, and I anticipate it's simple, but some of you would be excited to know that validation exists. And one question that you might have is, can we turn that on after we upgrade if there are, if we already have other data that's already been posted to that order type? And I ran through a test today, and you can. So I actually enable this fresh in this demo instance. This was not turned on for the SO orders. So, definitely something you can start to take advantage of with very minimal effort. Great. Well, that leaves us now with the manufacturing functionality that we wanted to talk about. SWK has a large number of distribution manufacturing customers, and I thought it would be prudent for us to look at some of the new engineering and manufacturing functionality that was recently released. Again, this is that additional module, and what you're seeing here are some additional screens when we turn that functionality on within the bill of material module. So these screens, again, don't exist in any version prior to 2019 R2. This is a net new module. And you can see I've got engineering change requests and change orders. Let's actually dive in and look at one of these and just talk about kind of the standard workflow that's available here. I'm going to go ahead and use the help here and go to my engineering change control procedures. And the Acumatica team has done a nice job of putting in some good workflows and explanations of how the engineering change control functionality is going to work. So if you're interested, you could take a look at this documentation in full. I'm just going to use this visual diagram here to explain the basics of what's available, and then we'll walk through an example. But basically, an engineer or someone that needs to change a bill of material now has a process to be able to do that. And we're going to be tracking changes. We're going to be having approval steps, tracking documentation, dates of effectiveness, things of that nature. So there's an engineering change request document that can be approved, and then the actual engineering change order that, when approved, is going to update our bill of material. And certainly we can have rejections as well and reasons on those rejections identified. So let's actually pull one of these up. I've got one that's processed already through that we're going to take a look at as an example. So this is the engineering change request for my door. And what you're seeing here, it looks very similar to the bill of material. Right, so I've got my operations and attributes at the top, and I'm going to zoom back out just so you guys can see my materials, steps, tools, and overhead in the bottom. If you are someone that's considering using Acumatica, I'm kind of going through this very fast today, just for folks that are already comfortable with the bill of material and production modules in Acumatica, but would be happy to take you and do a further deep dive just into basic manufacturing functionality. So this is my engineering change request that's being submitted by Neil Freirix, and the priority assigned has been 1. And there's this really neat feature now that we can actually do a compare BOM function. So I'm going to actually light off that compare BOM, because if I'm approving this request, I likely just want to see what's changing within the BOM structure. So what's available here is you can see all the greens. The green checkboxes mean that they match up old to new, or revision A to the change request that's current. And now what I can actually do is I can select on the item that's flagged as a change, and I can see what it was before on our bill of material to what is now being updated. So before, we only had one of these Maxi Core 1955 by 880s, and now I've got 5. So this can be routed through an approval and actually then submitted as an engineering change order. There's some really good functionality here all over to be able to show you what's being updated, both on the change request and the change order. You have all the same types of notes, activities, files, attachments that you do on the bill of material screen. So you could have some dialogue back and forth about this from the activities, and as well as the standard routing through the actual approvals. So when this becomes approved, it's going to flow right into the same approval screen that's already available inside of Acumatica. This is not a separate approval area. So here's just the actual change order for this part. And again, you can see here there's a change status column. There were no changes made to any of the operations, unchanged, unchanged, unchanged. And I can see my one line item for my 5 instead of 4 that has been updated. Okay. Lastly, the person, whoever is responsible, engineering manager, manufacturing manager, would actually commit those changes to a bill of material. Now, one thing that I want to highlight before we move into the Velixo portion, which we're going to be doing here in a moment, is if this could be a module that really speaks to a discrete manufacturer. And I realize not all of our customers using these manufacturing modules are your typical discrete manufacturers. So if you're someone that is more on the periphery of process, you've got some recipes that you're dealing with, or you know, it's not as like a door. There's some really good value still in this module for you, for anyone that's going to be going through a process to update a recipe, right, and having that history available, the audit trail available. So so I just wanted to throw that out there and make sure that you knew we're excited about this, because we see this as something that our broader manufacturing customer base can use. Anybody that's needing to update bills of material and really retain that history. So I'm actually, for time perspective, we're going to go ahead and we're going to move into the Velixo Reports section of our demo, and we'll return and we'll have questions for both the Acumatica features that we reviewed today, as well as the list for Acumatica and Velixo. So actually, can I have the screen back just for a moment? I had a couple of slides to introduce Gabriel, and then we can move to his screen. Sorry about that. Are you guys seeing the screen?
Yes, we're seeing your PowerPoint.
Great, thank you. All right, guys, so those were the features. I just wanted to take a minute and introduce Gabriel Michaud. You know, every once in a while in the sales process, when we're talking with someone, and even when we talk with existing customers, they say, you know what, the Acumatica reports are good, but man, I just really have this requirement to be able to do my financial reporting out of Excel. And that's exactly what Gabriel and Velixo do. So he's going to show us why Acumatica and Excel makes all of our customers happy.
Thanks, Jeremy. Before you make me presenter, yes, great. I just want to use this slide to give everyone a quick intro. By the way, Jeremy, very exciting presentation. I always enjoy looking at the new features in Acumatica, and I learned a bunch of things today watching your presentation. So thank you for that. My name is Gabriel Michaud. I am the founder of Velixo, and I'm here today to show you Velixo Reports, an Excel-based financial and project tool, a reporting tool for Acumatica. I assume that everyone on the call today is an Acumatica user, and I am pretty sure that everyone is also using Microsoft Excel on a regular basis. Well, I have very good news for you. The product that I'm about to show you today, well, you already know how to use it. Velixo Reports is extremely simple to use. It takes about 5 minutes to get started with the product. And I think that's the best way for me to show you the power of Velixo is to take you real demo, end-to-end demo. So Jeremy, can you make me presenter? Thank you. Excellent. I will start by installing the Velixo Reports add-in on my computer. This is the same add-in that every Acumatica and Excel user has to install to use our product with Excel. The good news is that we license Velixo for your entire organization, so everyone can install the add-in. You can install it on multiple computers and for multiple users. There are no additional per user.
We're seeing a white screen. Is that normal?
That's not normal. Okay, 1 second.
There we go. We can see your desktop now.
It's up now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, that was very fast. I'm not going to reinstall the add-in again. It took about 15 seconds. So we can just hit finish and start Excel. By the way, the product works with Excel 2010 and later. That also includes the current Office 365 versions of Microsoft Excel. I will start by creating a new spreadsheet. So for the first part of my demo, I would like to create a very simple trial balance that will list all my Acumatica GL accounts with the account name and the current balance. As you can see, we have a new toolbar that shows up in Excel. That's the Acumatica toolbar. So it's very easy to find and access the key features in Velixo. Since I just created a new spreadsheet, I will start by connecting and linking my spreadsheet to my AccuMatica server. So I just click Add Connection. I type the URL of my AccuMatica system, the tenant name, the username, and the password. I'm using the same credentials, so same username and same password that I use when I log into AccuMatica every day. The main benefit for you here is that you only need to set up and manage users and permissions in one system, and that system is AccuMatica. Also, if you are using any of the advanced security features in AccuMatica, for example, you're restricting access to specific screens, branches, or maybe even specific GL accounts and sub-accounts, well, these restrictions will also be applied when you run reports inside Excel. I'm good to go. I can click a close button here and get started with my report. But one more thing that I would like to mention is that it's possible to add multiple connections in the same spreadsheet. That allows you to access multiple Acumatica tenants, even multiple Acumatica instances, and create consolidated reports from a single spreadsheet. I will close that and then insert my chart of accounts in my spreadsheet. So one click, very simple. Next, I want to have the GL account name in column B. So I'm going to use one of the functions that we add to Excel. This is the account name function. It's very easy to find. So I just type equal account name, and Excel shows me a description of a function and how to use it. So I will just pick my account code and press enter. Very easy. So the last thing we want to do is get the current account balance. We're going to do that in column C, but before, let me add a few filters and some formatting. So code name balance. And I want to be able to filter by ledger and by financial period. So let's put that here. We're going to access the actual ledger and January. So at this point, all I have to do is use another function that we add, standard Excel function, equal account ending balance, and just follow the instructions. So I'm accessing the actual ledger. I want to get the balance for the account code that's here. I could also filter by sub-account or segment, but I will just leave that blank. This way I will include every sub-account and every period, every branch, I'm sorry, and finally the financial period. So just one last thing before I hit enter, I want to make sure that we're using a fixed reference so that when we copy this down, it's not going to change the row or columns. Let's press enter and copy this down. And that's it. We now have the current balance of the account. That's the live account balance coming from Acumatica. So if I change anything in the spreadsheet at this point, you will see that it recalculates. So let's say I want to look at September instead. I just change the financial period and press enter. That's it. Everything is live, everything is instant, and you can use all the features in Excel that you already know. So I can take my column, copy paste it, and now maybe compare my actuals with my budget. So it's very simple. It took me just a few minutes to create that. And that's just scratching the surface. There is so much more in Velixo. And since we only have 10 minutes today to look at Velixo, I will focus just on the core and most important features. I'll switch to a different spreadsheet to highlight a few additional features. I just opened another file that I created earlier. And just like you would do when opening a file like that, I will start by refreshing it. Excel shows you the latest data when you save the file. If you want to see updated numbers, you can click refresh, and the system will connect to Acumatica and retrieve the latest numbers. So you don't have to recreate your spreadsheets all the time. You just refresh a spreadsheet that you saved. As you can see, this is a very nice looking spreadsheet. We're making use of conditional formatting. We have groups right here, so my expenses I can quickly toggle from a summary view to a detailed view. And really, like, this is Excel, so you can use all the features that you already know and love in Excel. For example, let me select all my expenses, go to Insert, click Charts, and now I have a pie chart that shows me my expenses, and that's a live chart. If I switch to a different branch, the P&L refreshes, and the chart refreshes as well. It works just like Excel because it is Excel. There is one last thing that I would like to show you today. Have you ever wanted to be able to click on a cell in a spreadsheet and see what's behind the number that you see? For example, here we have $500,000 of expenses, but where is this coming from? Thanks to the smart drill down feature in Velixo, you're able to do just that. You click on any cell in your spreadsheet, even formulas and calculation, go to the Acumatica toolbar and click drill down. And what drill down does is that it looks at your formula. It identifies all the GL accounts, sub accounts, and branches that were included in that cell. And it even shows you where in the spreadsheet. That's extremely convenient because you can identify where that number came from. So for example, here we have a travel expense coming from D27. I can click, it takes me back to cell D27. And then if you want to see even more details, you can click on View Transactions, and we open the web browser and take you to Acumatica. So that's the Acumatica account details screen. I can see every single transaction and then drill down even further and access the original document. So all the great features of Acumatica are now available to me. So if I have a PDF that's attached to my document, single click and I can see it. So that's my Hilton hotel receipt, 20173. And if I go back to Excel, you will see that it matches what we had here and what we have in the P&L tab. Isn't that magical? I hope that you enjoyed my short presentation. There is a lot more, and I would love to give you a full product tour and show you features like the GL write-back, the budget write-back that also allows you to update Acumatica data from Excel, or the very powerful automated report distribution feature. But unfortunately, we only have 10 minutes today. Feel free to ask questions and contact your rep at SWK if you want to see a full demo of Velixo. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Gabriel. And thanks for joining us today. We do have some customers that are taking advantage of this tool, and I believe that it's going to be one that more and more customers will continue using. It's like you saw, it's really that easy. It's live, Excel-based, and it's just so easy to use. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll share my screen again. Helen, can you just confirm that I'm sharing the correct screen? It should be the Acumatica slide.
Yes, we're seeing the Summit 2020 slide.
Great, thank you. So a couple of things that we're going to do here. We've got about 6 minutes to go. And we talked about having a couple Q&As and then talking about Summit and giving away these 2 Summit passes. So I'll just check in with Helen, who's monitoring any questions coming across. Helen, do we have any questions in the queue right now, or are there any that are coming over now that we opened up the floor?
I don't see any questions coming in right now. So anyone that's on the line still, just feel free to ask us any questions while we have some subject matter experts with us right now. So feel free to send those over. You can type them into your question section in the pod. And I believe we may just have gotten a question. Oh, it was just a thank you for the presentation comment. So you're very welcome.
Great. Well, I'll tell you what, if there are any more questions come across, we can answer those here while we're wrapping up. In the meantime, let's talk about the summit. So this is the AccuMatica Summit in 2020. For those of you that might be newer to the Acumatica ecosystem here, Acumatica does an annual summit. It usually consists of two parts. Part one is the summit experience with the keynotes from a number of different folks at Acumatica and partners of Acumatica. I'm actually going to make my way over to the Acumatica Summit site. It is summit.acumatica.com, so pretty easy to get to. And that's where I'll share with you just some of the details about the Acumatica Summit. It is January 26th to the 31st. The first couple of days are actually the summit. So it's Monday and Tuesday. That consists of the summit activities. Again, there are larger sessions with smaller breakout sessions available. You'll be able to hit this register now button and just learn a little bit more. There is training provided Wednesday through Friday that week. So there's a little bit of light training on the summit days, but usually Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are dedicated for both customer and partner training. It's also a great experience to be able to meet some of the additional ISVs. I'm sure that Velixo will be there with the table or booth, as well as a number of other exhibitors to Acumatica. So as you're aware, there's a pretty wide ecosystem of integrations and additional companies that actually sponsor the event and are there representing their connected solutions. So it's a great time. There's usually a big party too, so it's a fairly social event on the first couple of days. And then this year, to end the day on Tuesday, there's a guest speaker who is Robert Ballard, who actually discovered the Titanic. So, you know, we're actually going to hear from him, and usually there's like a book signing and some other fun activities. It's a good balance of fun and learning and networking. So it is in Las Vegas this year at the Cosmopolitan, for those of you that are familiar with the Strip. Pretty central location there. And we're going to be representing SWK. There's probably going to be a dozen or so, at least, of us at the event, and looking forward to networking with everybody. So for you to sign up, you can go to the summit.acumatica.com website. If you have any further questions, again, reach out to us. And some of you are saying, you've made us wait long enough. Can you just pick the two names so that we can hear who won a free pass? So we're actually going to do that now. Thanks for hanging in there, and thanks for attending the webinar today. I'm going to go ahead and pick a couple of names here. The first name is, by the way, the rules in the webinar invite were that you had to still be on the line and attending. So we may need to pick more than a couple names, and Helen, I'll need your help here just to know who's still on. First name is Conrad Miller.
Let's see. I don't see a Conrad Miller anymore, so sadly,
Okay.
I think he has missed out.
Okay. How about Marina Chapman?
You said Marina Chapman?
Correct.
I think we need to pick another name.
Oh, wow. All right. Ian Oberst.
Ian is here.
All right. Ian.
Yes.
You won
Congratulations,
a free
Ian.
We're gonna send the codes out at a later time. We do have one more to pick. Sorry, go ahead, Helen.
Oh, I was just going to say that we will be in touch with these winners after the webinar, correct?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good.
Great. So we have Ian, and we've got one more to give away still. How about Holly Giuliani? Hope I'm saying the last name correct.
Holly is also here.
All right. Ian and Holly. Looking forward to seeing you guys at the summit.
Yeah, congratulations, guys.
Well, if there are no more questions that came across the chat, we will be in touch with the winners with the codes to sign up for the summit. If you guys have any other questions, please reach out to us, one of us on the line today. And if you've got questions about upgrades or the new folks in the practice, or even just some of these new features that you might want to get a deeper demo on. So with that, thanks everybody for attending, and hope everyone has a great day.
Yes, thank you everyone. Had a great rest of your day.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone.